All right, our next presenter will be talking about the topic, the digital marketing landscape of 2013. As a background, he is the Senior Vice President of comScore Inc. That's a global internet research provider. He's responsible for sales and services of comScore products throughout the region. And they report on the measurement of internet usage for 13 Asia-Pacific countries. And they're rapidly increasing their footprint in the Asia-Pacific region with their people and their products. He has more than 15 years sales experience in the Asia-Pacific region and is an active thought leader in the industry who regularly speaks at conferences. He holds a seat at the Leadership Council of the Interactive Advertising Bureau in Singapore. He's a veteran of the online analytics industry, having served as Regional Manager of Southeast Asia for Omniture, and before that, as Director for Global E-Commerce with Millennium and Copthorne Hotels. He also served as Chief Operating Officer at the web development agency Open World, and before that, he was the Director of Technology at the startup IamAsia.com. He holds a Bachelor of Science degree in Mechanical Engineering from Princeton University. He was actually born in Vietnam, but migrated to the U.S. after spending a year at a refugee camp in Malaysia. So let's all please welcome the Senior Vice President for Asia Pacific of comScore Inc., Mr. Joe Nguyen.
Thank you, Tony. Is this on? Yeah. Thank you, Tony. Can you hear me? You hear me okay? I can't hear, so if you don't hear it, let me know. Oh, thank you, Tony. I don't think I've ever been introduced so professionally ever before.
Well,
thank you very much. And I'd like to thank IMAP for inviting me to speak. So Menchi, Michael, Miguel, and of course Noralan for inviting me to talk about the digital landscape. We did an SCA Future in Focus recently. So Carrie Brown did a webinar, and I have a few of those slides, and I have a few more. A lot of the stuff will sort of gel in with what Gabby was saying just now as well. So just to kick it off, overview on the agenda, just globally where we're at, where's the state of the internet globally, where's Southeast Asia fit into that, and more again back into what Gabby was saying about the digital multi-platform consumers using different devices, tablets, phones. And what categories people are consuming news, video, and then the last one, and this is related to marketing, is viewability. So, without further ado, I'll just start off the global overview. So, where are we now? Currently, 87% of users of the internet is outside of the U.S. Right, 1996, early days, it was mostly U.S. and there's 34% outside of the U.S. Asia Pac makes up the largest piece of the pie at 41%. Europe makes up the second piece. A lot of that stuff is Russia. Russia is more on our side of the world, but Russia is considered part of Europe. When we focus into APAC, Southeast Asia makes up currently about 9.6%. That's an increase from last year of 2% overall. But the absolute number is 604 to 644 million people online that are in APAC. China obviously makes up a huge chunk of it, but percentage-wise, it's actually decreasing. India has gone up by a good chunk. There's a billion or so people there. Japan, which is by percentage-wise, they're a pretty mature market, so they're going down. Whereas Southeast Asia is still rising, and there's the rest of APAC. Time spent. This is time spent hours per month. Again, our data, if you're familiar with our data, it is PC users, home and work. Right? So it's very important, right? Because everyone's going to say, mobile, where's mobile? Where's mobile? We're working on that. We have some mobile stats, and I'll show that in a little bit. But that is this is PC usage. So on average, global average is 23.4 hours. APAC is still low. right? The average user in Asia Pacific doesn't spend as long online as others. And that's interesting thing when I was saying about mobile is that a lot of people are jumping onto mobile directly, Indonesia, Philippines, and they're consuming that as data gets cheaper and people are actually able to afford it. UV-wise, if you look here, Asia Pac, we went from 604 to 644, a 7% growth. That's higher than anybody else. Europe is 5%, but still not. It's slowing down in terms of growing. North America is pretty much flat. Latin America is 12%. It's not going to be that huge. And then Middle East and Africa. This is a very interesting one. I got this. We took a lot of sources to get this, and this was advertising revenue. And where does APAC market sit? Some of this stuff came from a Zenith Optimedia study or the release they released earlier this year, and they updated it. So Australia is 12 billion. Philippines is 1.5 billion. Now, I'm questioning IMAP. Does that sound right? Total ad spend. Too low? Too high? Too high? Online ad spend 51 million. Right, that makes it 3.2% of ad spend is currently on digital. I still sort of question this. I'm not sure about this. I still question this because I'm not sure if they included search. I think search does normally make up anywhere from 30 to 40% additional on top of that. But yeah, Singapore is there, the 1.9, and with IB in Singapore, I know this number is not right. It's lower. This is like rate card. And who pays rate card? But Singapore, when we do our estimates, it's close to 10%. It should be 10% right now in Singapore. And if you look across APAC, you see New Zealand, Australia quite high. China is quite high. Taiwan is really good. And Japan is quite high as well. And Japan is quite an interesting market. It's a lot of direct response and CPA driven, CPL driven versus branding. But yeah, so Philippines does well. Thailand's still there. Vietnam's still there. I don't need that one. I skipped that one for some reason. Now, Southeast Asia. In terms of growth, break it down further. The Philippines, we've seen, has grown the highest, 22% growth since March 2012. That's year over year. Singapore is a little bit here, small population anyway. Thailand is growing. Malaysia is kind of flat. Indonesia growing a little bit. Vietnam, numbers-wise, is huge growth. But percentage-wise, it's the Philippines. The more people are coming online. And as Gabby was saying, how computers getting cheaper, the netbooks, everything's getting cheaper, tablets and things like that. So people are getting online and are doing more things because the cost has come down for the hardware. And there's more content now that's enticing them. From a demographic perspective, is very young in many of the markets here. So you see Vietnam here, Thailand, both roughly 74% of the audience is under 35. Philippines is 71%. Indonesia is 70%, right? And you see Singapore is fairly even as the older generation also start to get on. They start to get on and check their grandchildren's Facebook and scare all the children away from Facebook. We've seen a trend in the U.S. that the younger generation, really young, the low 20s, are not doing Facebook anymore. Because they see their grandparents and they see their parents on there, and they start to do Line and stuff like that, and private chats and stuff like that. WeChat's really taking a lot of that stuff as well and trying to push their stuff out so you get to personal chats, group chats, rather than just publishing everything on Facebook. We think that the younger generation will start to realize and control their own content, if you will, distribution of what they do. And yeah, so Singapore is like that. Malaysia is also going. So as the markets grow, get more mature, more people come online, and you see a shift. But the youngest web users are the heaviest users. So that means they spend more time. So if you look here, number of hours, Malaysia 16. So this the Orange is under 35. So here, yeah, they spend a little bit more time. So, but in general, the young generation do spend a little more time. And this number, I would say, if you start to include mobile in there, that number would actually be quite high. This is we looked at globally in terms of men and women are different. Women tend to go to sites that are index. We have an index. Volume is not high, but index is about the average against an average internet user. So women do tend to index high for flowers, fragrances, lifestyle, family parenting. Whereas men, politics, technology, cars, sports, gambling, and also gambling. This is also gambling. Gambling with analytics. So the whole digital, multi-platform. So we call it multi-platform. People are consuming, different things. So this is across Southeast Asia, non-PC traffic. This is page views of websites that are consumed by non-PC devices. This is tablets. This is so orange here is tablet. Here is mobile. The light blue is mobile. And then obviously we start here, we start out at 75% here. But on average in SEA, it's 20.9%. The content is actually consumed on non-PC devices. And the number has been increasing year over year, month over month, as people buy more gadgets and toys. Singapore is at 23.3%. When we did this globally, Singapore has the highest at 23. It's the highest, higher than the U.S., higher than the UK in terms of non-PC usage, which is kind of interesting because it's just a smaller country in Southeast Asia, but the consumers there are jumping onto the mobile devices and consuming a lot more. A small blip here, which we don't even show really, are connected devices like TVs, smart TVs. They're starting to go in there. Xbox is now connected. Wii U is connected. So those we actually see consumption as well, but the numbers are statistically at this point insignificant. But we see that growing, and then we're starting to track those things. Thailand as well is growing quickly from 10% in September last year to 18.9%. So that's accelerating in many of the markets. So more on that. What are people doing? It's the content. As Gabby said, it's content. Now, it's the same person viewing across different devices. And this is where we see a trend here. In the mornings, this is night. Mornings, we wake up, we pick up our phones, we get to the office, we hit the PCs, and then this line here is tablets. And then evening, we whip out our tablets. So this is a day in the life of a work day, Monday through Friday in the UK. And this trend is very similar across, but slightly different by market, obviously. So again, mobile in the morning commute, PCs pick up, and then huge pickup of tablets roughly around 9 p.m., right? And yes, it's not like they're not watching TV. They're just doing this and this and this, and they probably still have the mobile because they got a call coming in, or they're checking stocks or whatever it is they're doing, whatever they choose their device to be. But it still tends to be the same person. And this is Europe as a whole, and you see it kind of flatline a little bit, but you still see the same peaks for tablets. Mobile also tends to peak late there as well. Maybe people are going out and things, but yeah, PC is still very relevant during the day. In Singapore, it's a bit, the trend is there, but you see this huge, this nice blip here for PC, lunch break here, and they're using everything all the time. And again, tablets will peak, mobile peaks, and obviously PC starts to drop down as well. So there is a trend. Tablets are actually we see more of an evening. People do use it during the day, but it is they prefer to take out their mobile. Then you get the phablets, and you get the iPad minis, and things start to cross. So people hold big things on their faces and talk. But that it just gets really murky. But the idea is they will have multiple devices, and they will start playing around with things and do different things with different devices. Social networking, always a topic, and and this market is one of the highest. Philippines, percentage of web users, 96% of people online in the Philippines go to social networking sites. Not that we'll have Facebook numbers a bit later, but I'm talking Twitter, everything that's social, Foursquare, whatever it is. So yeah, Philippines the highest, 96.1%, Thailand's 93, and so on, but definitely across SCA. And SCA as a whole, index is higher. Worldwide average is 79%, right, of the people online in the world access social networking sites. When we look at the Facebook top 15 markets by reach, Philippines just narrowly behind Brazil. But Brazil is one of the BRIC countries. There's hundreds of millions of people there. Thailand is at 89%. Are you guys going to try to beat Brazil? Well, a year from now, I'd like to come here and like to see 95% or something like that on Facebook. So top social networks by market. So Philippines to here, Facebook's obviously number one. Twitter has a nice usage as well. Tumblr, LinkedIn, Yahoo profiles as well. And you see dominantly across the markets, it's Facebook. Zing is a local provider here. Vietnam's Facebook is kind of spotty because they sometimes block it officially, unofficially, and all that. Yeah, and Singapore, 65. That's dropped down from where it used to be. So as people start to use more, you start to see things, habits kind of change. Having said that, social is not going to go away. We'll just stop talking about it so much, I hope. Just as, I think 5 years ago, it's search. Everything was search. Everyone's going crazy about search. And then suddenly we don't talk about it, search anymore. Does it mean they've stopped making money? No. Google's still making billions year over year more than what they did the year before. And they're still growing on search. It just becomes part of the fabric of the internet. Social will become part of the fabric. Yes, you'll do search on your campaign. Yes, you do social on your campaign. Yes, you do, branding on your campaign. It's not going to be, it's just going to be part of what you should do. Best practices. So category-wise, news and information category. So Vietnam, they like to read a lot of their news, 90%. Philippines, 50%. Here, minutes spent by visitors in this category, 25.9 minutes per month. And these numbers kind of pop up depending on politics and and gossip and things like that, right? So news does kind of go up and down, and that's one of the interesting things. Malaysia, same way. There was an election earlier this year, and you'll see numbers pop up from Malaysia Kini for various sites. But yeah, so it tends to be cyclical. Now, this is an interesting one, and this is Gabby alluded to this as well. About overseas Filipino workers, people who are wanting to view content, and this is what we've seen over the years: is that people are, from the top Filipino websites, news, a good chunk of their content, 63% of Inquirer, 61% of ABS, 63% of Philstar, are consumed from outside of the Philippines. And obviously, these publishers know that, and there's definitely revenue, money, ad dollars to be made there. And where did they come from? U.S. is the top one, Canada, Malaysia, UK, Australia, India, Singapore. And this trend is not going to change. I think that the more content that is delivered, Filipino content, makes it more relevant for the Filipinos overseas. Now, blogs, which is not counted in what we consider news, right? But blogs are actually quite important because people do write stuff, and it does become news for many people, but it's more like a personal opinion of things. And percent reach, Philippines, 49.7%. Another 14 minutes spent on blog pages. Indonesia is quite high as well. Thailand's quite high. Now, Indonesia, Thailand in particular, and it's local content. At the end of the day, the blogs, a lot of people are writing about it's local, and that's what consumers in that market want. They want to know what other people are saying in, next door or in the same city, or the politics and things like that. So it's about local content. And in Thailand, even more important because they don't necessarily read English, so they need it, in Thai. Markets where English is not the primary language, local content is very, very, very important. Entertainment and online video. Countries we want more young people visit and spend more time on entertainment sites. Philippines, 82.5% reach. Thailand's quite high. Malaysia's quite high. This means that during the month they go there at least